In this video, you are going to learn how to create the animation from the Apple Vision Pro website without writing a single line of code. If you're someone who wants to master no-code website building, then this video is for you. My name is Nandi, this is Framer University, and let's get started. So as you can see here on this website, I already recreated it and I will show you how it looks. This is the animation that we are going to create in this video. As you can see, we start scrolling on the website. We see this Apple Vision Pro. It sticks to the top of the viewport. Here, basically, this is 50 VH space here from the top. So it is sticking to the top. It is not moving, but we are still scrolling and we are activating certain scroll transforms that are transforming these individual parts to the top. So they are moving to the top as we scroll. And yeah, then a video plays on scroll and then we end the sticky section and we can check out the rest of the website. So you might think that it is not so complicated, and it isn't, but there are some tricky things. First, for example, you might think that, okay, here we see 3 parts. This is maybe 3 individual PNGs that we can just, animate out, but it is a bit more complex. The reason for this is because in order to generate or create depth, we have to break up some of these elements to 2 PNGs. So for example, the top part here has 2 PNGs, because if you see how we start here, only this part of the top is above everything, and that we reveal here, this part, as you can see, it goes behind the actual device. So that's why, for example, this top part will be 2 images. One will be top and one will be named top over. And for example, this middle part, this mid, will also have mid and mid over, because if you, for example, really focus on this little part here, you can see that it goes behind this mid, sorry, not mid, but bottom part. So it goes behind that. And if you focus on this part here, you will see that it basically goes above the bottom part. So this also has 2 parts, and this bottom has just 1 part. So yeah, and we also have a little image here. So this right here that we see, this is an image. It is the starting frame of the video that we will play. And when we start playing the video here, we basically hide that image so we can play the video. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say before I start with this recreation. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we layer these individual PNGs the correct way so we get this nice depth. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set up the sticky positioning. So when we start scrolling, it will be stopping here as we scroll, and then we can apply the scroll transform. So these individual PNGs will be animated to the top, and then we will use a code override to play the video on scroll. So without any further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to open Framer here, and as you can see, we already have a little document set up right here. I'm going to leave a remix link in the description that you can click. And if you remix that project, you will see a little tutorial page within it, and you can just click that and you will see this same document setup, and you can just, start creating it with me. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my Finder and I will place in these images. So I will just select all of these and all of the PNGs will be dragged to the canvas, and I'm going to make sure that each of these are renamed. So part bottom, or maybe just bottom here. This will be mid over. This will be the normal mid. This is the start frame. This is the top over, and this is the top. So as you can see, for example, we have the top here and the top over. They will be placed above each other and they will be moved at the same time. So that's how we will get a nice effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that each of these are having a similar width. So it will be 960. And then what I'm gonna also do is I'm gonna get the video as well. So I'm gonna press I on my keyboard, drag this video component here. I just searched for video, by the way, here in the insert panel, and I can just drag and drop the video component. Here I can select the upload on the right panel, and I will just drag and drop the MP4 here. Maybe that's not working, so I'm gonna just click it like this. So really cool. I'm gonna make sure that it has 608 height and 960 width, just like all the others. And now we have the video as well. So what we can do right now is we can place these images within our breakpoint, and we can use z-index to position them the correct way, because if, for example, something needs to be on top, it needs to have a higher z-index. Okay, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is, as you can see, we have this little section here, and within that we have the text, but we will create a new frame here that we will call parts, and we will set it to fill width and 500 pixel height, and the fill color can be removed. So basically we will set this to sticky positioning a little bit later, but now what I want to do is I want to just place in these images within this parts frame. So the first thing that I'm going to place in will be the video, because it will be on the bottom. So I'm going to just press Command and X, then Command and V here. And then just to make sure that it is positioned correctly, I will select the parts frame, apply a layout to it. The direction will be vertical, and then the distribute will be end. So now, as you can see, it is nicely placed on the bottom of this stack. And what I can do with this video is I can wrap it in a frame by pressing Command and Enter, and this will be called items. Okay, these items can have the same height of 500 pixels, but to make sure that this video is not moving around, we can deactivate the top pin, and now as you can see, it is pinned to the bottom, right and left, and I will make sure that this lock is set, so whenever this changes in width, we will make sure that basically the aspect ratio will be kept. Okay, and I will also apply a z-index here in styles. It will have z-index 1. Okay, so the next one that we will use is the top. So I will just Command and X again, and here within the items, I'm gonna press Command and V, and now it is placed within this, but we cannot see it because it is behind the video. So I will make sure to set the correct z-index. As I said, the higher the z-index, it will make sure that it is above the element. So video had z-index 1, top now has z-index 2, so that's why it is above the video. To make sure that it is positioned correctly, again, I'm gonna press and click here just to make sure that it is pinned to the bottom, right, and to the left. And what I can do now is I can place in the next one, which will be the mid. So I'm gonna just select the mid here, Command and X, and within the items, Command and V, and this will have z-index 3. Again, make sure that bottom pin is 0, top pin is deactivated, and the right pin is also 0, just to make sure that within this items frame, this mid is also pinned to the bottom, right, and to the left. So no matter what happens on the website, it will stick to those sides. So the next one is going to be bottom. So I'm going to select it, Command and X, and here within the items, Command and V, deactivate top pin, bottom and the right will be 0, and the z-index will be 4. So now we can see it right here really nicely. The next element will be mid over, so I'm gonna Command and X here and paste it here. So as you can see, the mid over will basically move with the mid, and I'll make sure that 0 is again set here, left, right and bottom pins activated, and z-index set to 5, so it is above the previous ones. And then the next item will be the top over, Command and X, and then Command and V here. Again, position it correctly with these pins, and then set the Z index to, I think we are at 6 maybe. Let's check out the previous one. Yes, it is 6. And now we can place in the last item, which is a start frame. Again, Command and V, bottom pin is 0, top pin deactivated, right pin 0, and Z index 7. So now, if we look at this, we can see a proper Vision Pro, and now we can make sure that we set up the sticky positioning correctly, because if we look at this right now in the preview, you can see that yeah, the video already plays, and as you can see, it loops. So we already see one issue, which is basically that we have to turn off this autoplay. So I'm going to select the video, playing no, and the loop can be also deactivated. So now if you take a look, basically we see the Vision Pro, we can scroll further, and that's it. But what we want to have is a Vision Pro here that basically sticks to the top of the viewport with a little bit of space here, and we can start scrolling, and with using scroll transforms, we can transform some of these PNGs out to have a nice effect. So the way we're going to set this up is basically we're going to select the parts frame here. As you can see, this parts frame is within the section. The section, as you can see, is a long frame. It has more than 2700 height. So as you can see, it starts here and ends here. Basically, if we set the parts to sticky positioning here, sticky, what this will mean is that if I set the value here, for example, 500, then this parts frame will be sticking to the top of the viewport with that 500 pixel distance until we reach the end of this section. So let's take a look at how this works. As you can see, it is sticking. This is 500 pixels here. And then when we end that section, it will basically scroll away. So the next thing I want to do is just clarify that in order for sticky positioning to work, you have to set all parent frames overflow to visible. That means that the section needs to be overflow visible, the main needs to be overflow visible, and the desktop main breakpoint needs to be overflow visible as well. So yeah, if these are not visible, then it will not be sticky. So one little code override that I'm going to use here is for the sticky positioning, because here we can only set fixed values. So top 500, 600 or something like that. But what I want to use is VH, viewport height. So what I want to have is 50 VH top value, which basically means that this distance here that we can see right now, this is now 500 pixels, but what I want is to have a relative value there, which is based on the viewport height. So if I have 50 VH there, that will basically mean that if I resize this viewport, it will stay 50 VH, 50% of the viewport. So because we cannot do this here, we will just remove this from here, and we will create a code override, which is already created here. It says top VH, and we are going to select with sticky top. If you don't have this within your project, you can just come here to assets, click the plus button next to code and create a new code override, and you can just paste in the code that you find here on framer.university. So I'm going to show you really quickly. You can find in the resources Apple Vision Pro scroll animation. If you scroll down, you will see this code override for sticky container, and you will just basically paste in this code there. So if I come back to Framer and take a look at this, now in theory, this top value will be 50 VH. So if I resize this, as you can see, it always stays 50 VH. So that's exactly what we need. So now what we can do is we can actually add the scroll transforms to animate the different parts out to the top. So the way we're gonna create those is by adding scroll transforms to these different parts. So start, top, mid, and so on. But in order to make this work, we will also have to create scroll sections that we can use to trigger these scroll transforms with. So first of all, I'm gonna create a section here, I'm gonna set the width to fill, width height to 100 VH, and the fill color can be removed, but maybe I'm gonna leave a little bit of color, maybe 20%, just so that we can see that it is here. So as you can see, it is coming into the viewport as we scroll here, and we can use that to trigger the animation. So this will be called top trigger, and we will add the scroll section on the right panel. It's gonna be called top. So now that we have this top trigger, we can add the scroll transforms to the frames that we want to trigger with the top. So that is the top over and the top frames here. So these images will have this effect of scroll transform. The trigger will be section in view, and the section will be the top that we just created. The from state will be 1 opacity, 1 scale, so no change there. And the to state will be a Y offset. And we are, as you can see, moving it to the top. But as you can see, it is getting cut off here. And that is actually because this frame that we just created here, the parts, is set to overflow hidden. So basically everything that is overflowing, so if we move something here to the top, as you can see, now it is overflowing because this frame parts frame ends here and it's set to hidden, it will be hidden. So parts overflow visible, and also the items overflow needs to be visible. And now as you can see, it is perfectly visible. I'm gonna move this start frame back to its position, so 0 button pin. And now we can see this little issue here that these are overflowing the main desktop breakpoint. The way I'm gonna just solve this really quickly is by just changing the width of these to a little bit smaller value, and the button pin will be 0. So now it is all good. So now we can come back to the main desktop breakpoint, and now that we have visible overflow, we can go back to the top over and top frames and adjust this scroll transform. So the to state will be, as I said, a Y offset, and we will just animate it to the top like this. It's gonna be minus 1100, so it's gonna be right here. So let's take a look at how this looks now. As you can see, as this little white frame comes in from the bottom, this top part starts animating to the top. So it's really nice. Now what we need to do is to add more additional trigger frames to trigger the rest of the images with. So I'm gonna just duplicate this top trigger by pressing Command D. I will make sure that it is absolutely positioned, because what I want to do, but before I tell anything else, I will just set these pins to 0 just to make sure it doesn't overflow. It will always stick to the sides of the viewport. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the top pin and deactivate the bottom pin, and I'm going to just move it here a little bit to the top, and it will basically come a little bit after the top trigger, so maybe 1000, and as you can see here, I'm checking out this value, maybe 1250 can work, or I'm just gonna have 1200. So I'm gonna rename this to mid trigger, because this is going to trigger the mid part. So I'm gonna rename the scroll section as well. And now I can select the mid over and the mid, because those will be moving at the same time. And I will just make sure to add an effect of scroll transform again. And the trigger is section in view. The section is mid. The from state is 1 opacity, 1 scale, so no change. And then here the 2 will be again a Y offset. So as you can see, now it will be moved to the top, and minus 850 will be the value. So now again, let's take a look. As you can see, the top starts moving as this here in the right, bottom right corner comes in. And when the other frame comes in as well, the mid starts moving as well here. So really cool. Now we have both of these moving out. Now we have this bottom part here that we have to animate out as well. So in order to animate that bottom part out as well. We're going to use the same mid trigger. I just remembered we can use that for it. So I'm going to select the bottom and then scroll transform. The from state will be 1 opacity, 1 scale. The to state will be a y offset of minus 550. And then this trigger will be section in view, and mid section will be the trigger. So let's take a look at this. And as you can see, it looks really nice. We are going to do one little thing here. So as you can see, as this stops here with the sticky positioning, it doesn't move whatsoever. But if we take a look at the finished animation, you will see that even though we stop, it still moves a little bit to the top. So if you focus on the last part here, you can see that a little bit it is going to the top. So we can add another scroll transform to achieve that. So what I will do is I will select the items frame because it contains all the items, and we will move this to the top just a little bit. We will use the top trigger, so scroll transform, section in view, the trigger is top, and the from state is of course 0 opacity, 0 scale, and the to state will be just the y offset of minus 150. So now if we take a look, you can see that even though we are stopping with the sticky positioning, it still moves to the top just a little bit. So now what we can do is we can actually hide these trigger frames, because I just wanted to make sure that you understand that these are coming into the viewport. And yeah, but we can just set the opacity to 0 to hide them, and the animation will be still happening, but we will not see those ugly frames. So now what we can do is we can hide the starting frame of this video, which is an image, and then play the video on scroll. So first we're gonna create another trigger frame here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw a frame here. It will be called, I'm gonna just place it right here. It will be called start trigger. We will make sure that it has fill width. It's gonna be absolutely positioned. These values will be 0, so 0 pins, and it's gonna be 1540. And the height will be 1 pixel and the fill will be removed. So the reason I'm using 1 pixel height here is I want this animation to happen really fast, almost instantly, because when we use scroll transforms with section triggers, the length of the animation will be basically determined by the height of the trigger frame. So as you can see, these triggers top and mid are 800 pixel height, so the animation has a certain length because of that. But if I set the start trigger to 1 pixel height, it will basically instant. So now I can go to start frame and add the scroll transform. The from state will be 1 opacity, 1 scale, trigger section in view, and I forgot to add the section to the start trigger, so let's add it now. It's gonna be called start. I can go back to the start frame and select the start section here. So the from state is set, and this will be 0 opacity, so we basically hide it. So now maybe we can say it a little bit that when we start scrolling here, there is a certain point, then this disappears. You can see that the color of this changes a little bit here. As I scroll back and forth, you can see, and now this is the actual video, and we can now play it on scroll. So the way we're gonna play that on scroll is by using a code override again. You see, you can boost Framer's capabilities with these code overrides, and the good thing is that you don't have to write them because I already have them. So you just have to go to Framer.University, to the resources, again go to Apple Vision Pro, and you can scroll down here and find the code override. So I already have this code override in my file, so I will select the video and apply it to it. So code override, scrub, and with scroll progress. Let's take a look at how this works. And as you can see, it works perfectly. We basically have the animation. So yeah, that was this video. I hope you learned something from it. In order to learn more about Framer, you can go to Framer.university. I have a bunch of resources all for free, so you can browse those and remix them. Also, I'm releasing courses this year, so you can also get on the waitlist at Framer.university if you are interested in those. So yeah, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.